Japan has also ordered airlines not to operate the troubled aircraft, with Japan Airlines and ANA Airlines already grounding their fleet. This is the third incident in 3 years that is involving these certain engines. The Boeing 777 jet scattered debris over a residential area in Denver yesterday, leaving many residents in shock after parts of the plane landed in their yards and onto their homes.
I thought the wind had blown my neighbor's trampoline over because I could just see the metal. Like the tree was kind of blocking where I was inside the house. But as soon as I opened the door, I go, oh, that's the front engine of a plane.
I heard this loud rumble. And I thought it was a military aircraft because it was really, really loud. It came right over the house, and I watched it, and you could see that the right engine was on fire.
Planes don't fly this low over our house. They never fly over our house. Oh! It's got a blown engine! Oh no!
Well, for more on this story, let's bring in Professor Greg Bamber from Monash University Centre for Global Business and co-author of book Up in the Air. Hi, thank you for your time.
Good evening, Holly.
Thank you very much for making some time this evening to give your insight on this story. Now, can you give a brief overview of what's actually happened to the Denver flight?
Well, first of all, no one was hurt on the Denver flight, and this is a great tribute to the skill of the pilots in control of it. There were 241 people, including 10 crew members on the flight, and everyone was safely disembarked into the terminal in Denver, in spite of the aeroplane experiencing an engine failure. If you're an emergency department doctor, as an analogy, this would be like a shallow wound with lots of blood, really spectacular. The engine was smouldering away to itself, but in fact not endangering the aircraft. That's why aircraft have podded engines, separate from the main fuselage, and there was no damage to the wing or the fuel tanks, no explosive decompression, and no damaged flight controls.
Yes, I mean, it's still very scary though, isn't it, to think that this can potentially happen. And I mean, for those onlookers that saw this unfolding, I mean, it would have been very frightening. So now we know that United Airlines is grounding their Boeing 777s. Can you explain what the investigations will now be?
Well, you're right, Holly. It would be very concerning if you were on that flight, looking out the window at the engine apparently on fire.
My worst nightmare.
Yes, the American National Transportation Safety Board is investigating and has asked that anyone who has found debris in their front yard or in their neighbourhood, please contact them through their local law enforcement agency, and the board will conduct very thorough investigations and try and get to find out what actually happened in this case.
Yeah, it's very, very scary. But how long do you think that they will likely be grounded for? I mean, it's obviously a necessary move that they do be grounded, but how long do you see them being grounded for?
Well, they'll be grounded for as long as it takes. And the closest parallel experience we've got was with the Boeing 737 MAX aircraft, only within the last couple of years, following two tragedies, one in Indonesia, the other in Ethiopia, and reluctantly and rather belatedly, the flight aviation regulators grounded those aircraft for a long period of time, well over a year, until they were thoroughly tested and the problem was rectified, which Boeing initially was almost in denial about, but Boeing belatedly did the right thing, and only now we're seeing those aircraft return to the skies. So they'll be grounded for as long as it takes.
Yes. Do you think that it's a possibility some of them will be grounded, more permanently?
Yes, it is, especially as this is not the first incident with this particular aircraft and these particular Pratt & Whitney engines. We've seen two earlier incidents, one with the same airline, United, another with Japan Airlines, within the last 2 or 3 years. So in those cases, again, there were no fatalities, but having 3 cases like this is really bad, and so the regulators need to get to the bottom of it before these aircraft with this particular engine is allowed to fly again. But let me mention that not all Boeing 777s have the Pratt & Whitney engines.
Yes.
In fact, most of them now have either General Electric engines or Rolls-Royce engines, which haven't experienced this particular kind of problem.
Exactly, and it's a very important point that you make there, because when we've seen it on the news and everything, you assume that it's all Boeing 777s, but it's not. It's definitely only the ones with those engines. But is it likely that we'll see more aeroplanes with engine failures in the future?
Well, I'm worried about all the aircraft that are stored in the desert at the moment,
Yes.
either in Australia or the United States or Spain, for example, simply parked while there's very little international aviation taking place because of the pandemic and borders being closed. Now, although these aircraft are being serviced, it's not good for aircraft simply to be parked up, just as it's not good for your car just to be parked up.